This is Dr. Batts with the About That Life podcast, the podcast that focuses on life or living intentionally forever. The focus of this podcast is for anyone who wants to experience life in the fullest through the lens of fitness, nutrition, and health literacy. As we think about kind of where we are right now in life, as we think about kind of what we're doing, oftentimes we're faced with options, right? Or pivot points. And so through each one of the shows, whether it's a guest or whether we're talking about a different scenario, we're going to talk about various pivot points, whether that's a change from high school to college, a new career, a new relationship, a new activity, new exercise, new diet, you name it. But at every point in life, we have choices to make or a pivot from doing one thing or doing the other. Our guest today is familiar with pivots. She is, in full disclosure, she is a friend of mine, but probably one of the most engaging individuals you all will ever have the opportunity to meet. If you meet her, she's as humble as a mouse, but at the same time, she commands the respect of international presidents, kings, entrepreneurs, CEOs, you name it, and she's there. And it's not because she forced her way into that space. She ran into that space with the speed of an Olympian. And so without any further ado, and we'll get more into kind of the specifics of who she is, what she's done, and all the accolades. But without any further ado, I want to introduce to some and just allow others to be enamored by the great magnanimous, you can see her smiling here, of Cox Walker, a friend of mine. Here she is. So Crystal, how are you doing today?
I am doing so well. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you.
No problem. Well, whenever I bring people on a show, I always want to know first, before I talk about anything, how are you? How are you doing? Because I know your life is busy and crazy. We talk, you travel, you coordinate. So how are you doing? How are you keeping balance of all those things?
I am just trying to take it one day at a time. It just depends on the day and the season, what hat I'm wearing. And for the next, I would say 6 weeks, I will be wearing the mother of a graduate hat.
So taking it one day at a time,
Yes.
depending on the day and the season. All right. So now what things now I know that we're going to talk about kind of plans in the future and in the spring of what's coming up. But what we want to know is what are your plans? I'm curious, what are your plans for the holidays? I mean, I know you've traveled the world, but are you staying local, or are you looking at some other places to go? I mean, because we just finished Thanksgiving, and I know you went somewhere for that. We got Christmas coming up, so what's going there a little bit later? So what's the plans for the holidays?
For the upcoming holidays, I am a warm weather kind of person, so I will be headed to the extreme south.
The extreme south. Okay,
Yes,
I don't even know what
as
that
close to
means.
the equator as I
I'm
can
in
get.
South Texas. Well, I'm in South Texas. I don't know if I want any parts of that. I don't know if I can do extreme, but maybe during the winter time that'll work out. Maybe that'll be what works out. So, but I know you're busy and your schedule's busy. And what I really wanted to talk to you about, and as you know, I'm a cardiologist, and I've had this fascination with kind of heart health from the lens of kind of non-pharmacologic strategies. And we grew up together, right? So we understand that fitness, health, wellness, all those things kind of go in together. But what I always ask folks or focus on is what we like to call the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And I ask people, did you take your meds, MEDSSS? And I know you're saying, well, you just said non-pharmacologic. That means no. Trust me, Crystal, trust me. What I'm saying is, mindfulness, exercise, diet, sleep hygiene, social connectedness, and getting rid of risky substances are all the things that we talk about. But somebody like yourself that, again, I know time is the new commodity for you and those type things. How do you balance staying fit, staying healthy? And we're going to talk about that through your walk. How do you do that now? And I'm jumping ahead just because I'm curious, because I've seen you. You still look fit. You still look like you could take on the world. So how do you do it? And I'm gonna get that out of the way now. I may save it because people may just want to get this and then leave. How do you do it?
As you get older, you have to protect your space and protect your peace. So from the mindfulness perspective, that's what I do. I am very cognizant about who I let into my space and disrupt my peace. With regards to exercise, I try to get it in every day, whether it's walking or jogging. Now that the seasons are changing here in North Carolina, this is an opportunity for all of us to become couch potatoes. But I try to limit that by at least getting in 20 minutes, 30 minutes of walking in the neighborhood.
All right. Now, Paul, I'm gonna pause you there because this
Okay.
is where we're gonna talk about a little bit about who you are and how we really got to know each other. So she said she walks in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Now I remember back in the day, I still could beat you, but even now, I think I could beat you. Now you know where I'm going with this. You
Yes.
already know. But we're talking to an Olympian, folks, right? So I'm not gonna pull it. So talk to us about kind of how you grew up, and let's work through your early beginnings, and then let's talk about that first pivot point, which we experienced together. It was that transition from junior high to high school. So let's talk about that. So where'd you grow up? What'd you do? What made you interested in sport as a way to maintain that fitness and exercise?
Well, you and I both grew up in both humble beginnings in Spring Lake, North Carolina.
Spring
But
Lake.
we used our talents. We used our talents to propel us to the next level of our life when we were youth. And if we could use our talents to get us a free education, regardless to where, we used it. And growing up, we couldn't walk in the neighborhood. If anything, we had to run through the neighborhood. So yeah, we used our track and field talents to get us our free education.
No, and that's exactly when I look at kind of the accolades that I glance over at. I mean, Olympic gold medalist, indoor champion, Hall of Fame inductee, Hall of Fame inductee, Hall of Fame inductee, I mean, now now again we talked about junior high and one of the first races I remember, and you probably don't remember, but you almost. How tall are you? 6'80",
I,
6,000,
6'3", and during the time of competition, I held the title of being the tallest elite sprinter in the world.
Yes, she's 6'3", folks. So
Yes.
imagine me at a media guy height of 5'8" and a half plus two. No, I'm not 5'8" and a half. I was, and we would stand and we would train together, right? And again, I was a more speed and kind of quick power. And once I got the jump on you, I would have you. But it would be her just kind of allowing you to linger. And the race I remember, this happened a little later in your high school career, where you were behind in a race by 200 meters. That's right, folks, half a track. I'm not joking, half a track. And she got the baton. And I don't know if it was a national championship we were at or some sort of high school championship. And needless to say, I think that's the race that kind of let everybody know you were for real. Do you remember the race I'm referring to?
I remember that race, and I think that race will probably go down in the history of the state of North Carolina as the most phenomenal
Hmm.
race. And that was a time before YouTube, before social media, where people couldn't get it right then and there and upload it. So I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember.
Yeah, no, and I think from that, because again, I always say you're not really but just so gentle, so shy, so humble. Whereas humility is something that I learned over time. I didn't have it very early on, but how did you maintain? Because I remember once you got to high school, people already knew you, and we were on a traveling circuit for track. And then you would come along and you'd be like, our little sister, because it'd be the 4 or 5 of us with the alternate. You'd run your individual. We'd be hanging out, run our individual. But your name started in those high school circles, 93, 94, 95. How did you do that? How did you make that transition? And what was it like being in that position?
Just like you said before, I was the little sister, but the people I looked up to, you, my brother, your whole circle, your whole relay squad called the Horsemen. Like, even though I was a female, like I wanted to be a horseman. You guys were fast, and it was part of an elite club that I wanted to be a part of. But our high school coach, he knew that in order to bring out the best in me, I could not have competition in North Carolina. So what did she do? I would fly to California. I would fly to Florida. I would fly to Kansas. Wherever the competition was, she was like, "That's where you need to be at."
Right.
And that's what
And
she did.
again,
And she helped put our
no,
name out
and
there
I
on the
think,
map.
and exactly, and I can say from that, that's what really kind of changed the game for you because I can remember that race leading to other races, and then from there it was, a 6'3" young lady that could run everything from the 1, 2, to 3, the 4. I think even indoor we ran some 8s. I think mainly for punishment, but we still we
Yes,
still ran
yes,
them,
those
right?
are punishments. Yes.
Yeah, that was a punishment. But now as we look at kind of moving into that pivot point, so you had a wonderful high school career. I won't go down the list of places that recruited you because I know. I mean, we pretty much all over the country. You were, if not the top, one of the top 3 female sprinters coming out of high school at that time. And the only reason I know is because we tried to get you where I was, and that wasn't happening. You didn't want to be a Jayhawk, but it's all good. It's all good. We tried to get you. I know that. I think I even sent you some candy or something. I wanted
Yes,
you out
yes.
there. I wanted you to be a Hawk, but it was fine. So how did you so take me through kind of that period of deciding what was the right fit for you? How did you make that decision? Because you could have picked any place in the country.
Yes. Well, you know what? Um, in actuality, I wanted to be around females and a team and a coach that was going to propel me to the next level. I've always known that I wanted to be a professional athlete. In high school, racing in Pocatello, Idaho, I remember meeting the late great Florence Griffin Joyner, and I
Whoa,
looked
whoa,
her
say that
square in
again.
her
Pause.
eye.
Right. So you just went through that too. You met who?
The late great Flojo, Florence
My
Griffin Joyner.
goodness. I
Yes.
think I know this story, but go ahead and tell it. Go ahead and tell it.
Yes,
It is
I met her in
almost
Pocatello,
unbelievable. Go
Idaho.
ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead, tell the story of your introduction to her. And what I'm laughing already because of what you said.
Well, I was competing at an indoor meet in Pocatello, Idaho, and it was a big meet out west, and I may have been one of a handful of East Coast athletes there, and Flojo, she was the MC. She was the creme de la creme. She was the guest of honor at the indoor meet, and I made my way through the crowd. I'm like, she's gonna know who I am today. And afterwards, after I raced, I went up to her and I told her, I was like, I'm gonna break all your records. I want to be just like you.
Wow. So you told the queen of track and field. You told her. You went straight up to her and said, "I'm gonna break all your records." Now
Yes,
that takes a little what we call swagginess. That takes a little bit of that. So it does, right? Because when
yes,
you
it
think
does.
about track, I think is unique in the sense where it is an individual sport with a team concept. And it's really an army of you. Now, if you got people to help you and accountability partners, which we served as, it helps, but it's you. And you made a big claim. So tell us about you make that claim, you know what you can do. How did you come to that space? Because you had a ton of wins under your belt, but again, seeing that West Coast competition, that competition from Texas, competition from Florida, but to go up to again, world record holder, champion, you can enumerate and to say that. How did you get to that space?
Well, I had this mindset. In order to be the best, you had to beat the best. And Flojo at the time, she was very much in her career, um, at the pinnacle of her career.
Right.
Multiple gold medalists, and she had nothing else to prove. Her name is in the record books. I was just the next generation coming along.
I love it. So kind of the natural maturation. I mean, and you see it now with the different sports and different things that everybody's bigger, stronger, faster, and those type things. So now as we move, so we've transitioned from that kind of middle school, high school, really getting your name on the map. Now you go to college. Now this is a different pivot point that I didn't even know about, and I'll let you talk about this. So this was a point where you get to college, and around what time was that? What year was that?
In 99, 2000, my junior year.
99 to
My life took
uh-huh.
another pivot, um, and that is the year that I had my greatest accomplishment, and that is my daughter Destiny. And I had her, and I only missed one day of class. I had a 4.0 GPA. She was born on a Thursday. I had Tuesday, Thursday classes, and she was born on a Thursday. And right afterwards, she was coming to class with me and to practice. I did not skip a beat. She was born in March, and I went to my college coaches and I told them, hey, the Olympic trials are in June. We need to get ready.
Oh, okay. So you had a baby.
Yes,
And most people take some time and recoup and recover and all
correct.
that. I could see going back to class. They didn't have virtual back then. It wasn't too
Correct.
long ago, but we didn't have virtual.
Correct.
But you went back to training.
Correct. Yes. I went back to class and to training. Yes.
What about, and I don't know this, I don't know, what about the baby weight? Because you had to, how did you, because I hear people, it's people that don't come to work, that can't, and I'm not saying, I know it's different for everybody, but how did you do that? I'm curious.
I trained up until I had Destiny. Up until I had her, coach had me out there running bleachers, running around the track. Yes, my standard at the time was a lot lower than the rest of the team, but he wanted me out there, which made for a very easy pregnancy. 30 minutes. She came out. 30 minutes.
Oh, the sound effect.
Yes.
Okay, I get it. It works. So when they tell pregnant women to exercise, you are standing here saying, "Hey, run." And I'm not now. This is not a medical endorsement for running bleachers while you're pregnant. This
No.
is not. This is just saying what she did. So folks, do not. I'm gonna put a disclaimer up before this clip. Do not
Yeah.
try this at home. This is an
No.
Olympic athlete that we are talking about.
Correct.
Don't run bleachers in the North Carolina heat in because it gets. You said March, right?
In March, yes.
Yeah, so it's warm. It's getting warm. Do not do that. This is an Olympic athlete who had a village around her to help her do this. So, all right. So you have that pivot, and for many people, they would say, "Hey, I had a great career. I got a 4.0. I'm going to transition into the work world. I'm good." And at that time, with 2000, 99, 2000 Olympic trials, you know what? Go ahead and pass me. A lot of people would have hung up the jacket, taken the accolades they had, but I see your resume from 2000 on. And just to give you all an idea, basically the North American 200 and 400 meter champion, the recipient of the L.I.F.E award given by the governor, athlete of the year, Progressive Association of New York, Golden South champion, Hall of Famer, UNC Chapel Hill, indoor track and field 200 meter champion, gold medalist. And these all came after that. So
Yes.
tell me about your life after having a child, because a lot of people, and again, for me, it was invigorating, and just to see someone that I got to build into, and I did have to pivot a little and change. But how did you do that? Because a lot of these things aren't in the same place; they're all over the world. How did you accomplish that?
I had a strong village, but I was a single mom, and it was hard. But it's one of those things where you have to be laser focused, whatever your dream is, whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And that's what I did by any means necessary. And, you know, Destiny, she grew up with me. She grew up with me, and it was a lot of sacrifice, and between that 2000 to 2004 window, when everyone was, gathering for the holidays with their families, I was running hills. I was running bleachers. I was in the weight room, and I, I have a very strong spiritual background, and I told God, I asked him, hey, I'm gonna put in the work, and I'll meet you halfway if you meet me halfway, and he did.
My goodness. Now you have a mantra or a saying that I don't know you came up with, or maybe a coach. I want you to say it, because I think that's powerful and you don't have to be an Olympic athlete to use this concept. But I think anybody that's trying to do something that has never been done, and people say, well, a lot of things have been done. Well, not for you, right? Like the idea of completing medical school and starting a business and going to a new place and doing cardiology, those have never been done for me. So anything that you do is a new thing, but there's always this concept of balancing sacrifice with self-indulgence. And speak about that saying really quick, because that's a powerful piece right there. So tell me about that.
Yeah, one of the creeds that I live by, and I pass it on to almost any youth whenever I public speak. I tell them, know for now but not forever. And it's just, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, sometimes you may have to tell your friends or your family, no, I can't do this. No, I can't go out right now, because you're trying to put yourself in the best position for whatever the end result is, that whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And for me, athletically, in 1996, I was invited to the Olympic trials. My coach in high school, she said no for now. In college, in 2000, I was going to try out for the Olympic trials. I had destiny, no for now. But I made my comeback in 2004. So it was no for now, but not forever. And I achieved it.
Man, I love that, and I love the fact that every time it was a hurdle that for most people, and nothing wrong with tapping out, but just saying but just the fact that the goal you set for yourself, and that's something that I often see with successful people or people, and whatever that level of success is someone that says, I have this self actualization of where I want to be at this time, and despite what comes about getting there, I'm gonna get there. And I mean, I think you epitomize that beautifully. So we've talked about your athletic career, balancing, athletics, being a mom, and those type things, which is an accomplishment all in and of itself. But then your life, this is where I'm super interested, took yet another pivot, right? So we talked about that initial pivot, right? High school, second one, being a mom on a professional circuit, traveling over the world, an Olympic champion. Now tell me about this next pivot. What happened next?
So the next pivot is reality television. So I auditioned for Survivor. And that's a big one. Not many people wake up and say, I want to live in the wilderness. I want to go outside and make fire. I want to eat rice off the ground. Folks don't wake up and say that. But that has got to be the... Exactly. 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 So yeah. So Survivor, being a castaway, I was number 6 out of 15, no, out of 18 castaways my season. So yeah, I finished in the top 6.
Wow. So 18 cast. Now, where were you? Where were you? Tell us about that process a little bit, because you had mentioned you were gonna do this, and then they almost made you pivot again, and they had a nice little name for it. I don't know if you could disclose it, but
yes, I can.
Again,
I can.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So
I'm
I
curious.
auditioned for Survivor like a regular person that is interested in the show. I went to the auditions, and the Big Brother casting team loved me, and they were like, "We want you on Survivor." So I packed my bags. I was ready to go, and then they called me one day before. They was like, "No, we don't want you." So of course my heart sank, and I was like, "What did I do wrong?" Then they called me again, like 2 months later, and they flew me back out to California. And then now I had competing offers, because at the time, one of the greatest shows on television, American Gladiators. And American Gladiators were going to call, and they had a name for me. They're like, we want to call you Olympian. I was loving it. But Survivor is where my heart was. So I went with Survivor.
Went with Survivor. Now, how long? Now, I know you were in the top 6, so that means you had to be there a long time. And this goes back to your ability to take yourself away from self-indulgence, right? Conspicuous consumption, so to speak, and put yourself in a space where you were denied even some of the most basic of basic needs.
Yes.
How long did you have to do that?
I lasted 36 of 40 days. And
Wow.
yes, lack of food, lack of rest, lack of water, just the basic necessities, stuff we take for granted, a shower. Just imagine wearing the same clothes, the same underwear for 36 days.
Didn't need that extra piece of info, but I get it. It almost sounds like freshman year in college when you don't know how to watch. No, but it wasn't that bad. We could figure something out. So now, what did that do for you? How did that change Because you already had kind of that ingrained sense of purpose. You already had a vision. You already knew. Did that help? Did that, oh, this is just par for the course? But how did that, because that's a different experience, because throughout every other phase, you had an environment that was largely supportive. You had an environment that was created in such a way that allowed you to succeed. This was an environment that was set up to kind of not make you fail, but to break you. How did you navigate that in a different space?
To be honest with you, I leaned on my spirituality, and it is designed, the arena of Survivor, the everything about it is designed to break you mentally, socially, emotionally. Um, it's extreme paranoia. It's an amazing social game. Just putting 15 to 18 people together that would have never crossed paths in real life, that have a facet and multitude of personalities. And to be honest with you, I didn't get along with anyone except for one person. The least person that folks would have never suspected me to get along with. He was an 18-year-old professional video gamer.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That is it. And again, I went back and watched some of your shows. Of course, and I know how it ends, but I'm cheering for you every time, just like I didn't know what ends up happening, because I was a fan at that point. But it was just good to see you transition and do something different and have these opportunities come available. And and as we start to move into this, and I won't say next phase, but this new phase, you've taken on, like you told me, several hats, right? And I won't say the comment that I said about how you could wear several hats. My dad used to say the reason why people could wear several hats because they got a big head. So I'm not saying that about you. I'm just
Well, thank
just
you.
saying.
Well, thank you.
But
I know you mean it with love.
I do. And
I
the
know.
thing is, I'm proud of you. I'm super proud of you because when I look at your resume or your CV and know that right now you are the person for UNC healthcare systems research, support, and compliance, which people don't realize to do a research. And I know because I'm on the PI side or the researcher side, and we always want our stuff to go through. But if everything isn't right, it doesn't matter how good the data is, it's not going anywhere. So having a great compliance officer, having a great team to coordinate with the IRB to ensure that people are treated fairly and appropriately, that's something that even I don't think about. I know what goes into it, but to see you move into that space and a level of complexity and attention to detail that it takes is just amazing. So talk a little bit about, if you can, what you're doing now, how you transition to that space, and then also the piece where, and this is something in full transparency, I'm a UNC School of Medicine grad and appreciate their efforts towards diversity, equity, and inclusion, but understand that we're probably not where we want to be as an institution and as we move forward. So how are your efforts really moving that forward and allowing them to re-envision what it means to have that diversity and inclusion?
Prior to working in the research space, not to toot my own hat, but just to know that I am helping UNC make strides. I was one of the leading recruiters for the institution across the country, bringing in the best and brightest doctors. And the CEO, he couldn't understand it. He was like, Crystal, we are getting the creme de la creme. And I know that when they're in front of the doctors and they're interviewing, they're putting their best foot forward. But I think their interaction around me was completely different because I want to see the human side of them. And I was in that recruiting space for a while, and that was my job, to bring in the best and the brightest, regardless of race, color, creed, but to show that we are just as talented, and opportunities in other institutions that have closed the door on many of the doctors that are here at UNC, we opened up for them, and now they're the leading doctors in their various fields. So I'm proud to have been a part of that.
And you still are. I mean, I think your contributions extend even farther than you give yourself credit, because I can read everything that you're doing in the recruitment space. I mean, I know with the American College of Cardiology, we've set up different tiers of recruiting, but it's always difficult to know what the applicant thinks or what the prospective recruit thinks about how we feel, because we can tell them the science, we can tell them what we offer, but you giving that humanistic perspective. And I think that leads right into your philanthropic work, right? The work that you do where you don't brag, you don't say, hey, look at me, but using, and I'm going to say it, using your celebrity to assist others. And I know there's a project. I mean, I would love to participate, but I am neither a survivor nor am I Olympian. But there is a project that you're working on that you gave me some snippets of it, but it sounds super exciting to take off next spring, next summer. Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, thank you so much for segueing into that. I am super honored and proud to be a part of the North Myrtle Beach Survivor reality showcase. And I am one of 3 captains. And my team will consist of local celebrities in the North Myrtle Beach area. Your everyday news anchor, your everyday firefighter, your everyday school administrator. And we are going to grit this out for 40 hours. And we are raising funds right now for the kids. So they will put us in the jungle, wherever this is in North Myrtle Beach, for 40 hours.
40 hours of Survivor with teachers, news anchors, probably
Correct.
chief of police, some different folks. And I love the fact that, you said everyday people, but these are also heroes and celebrities in our community, which I can think about some of the teachers, some of our coaches that really impacted our lives in a way that we couldn't imagine. And I'm just glad to know that they reached out to you to have you be a part of it, because just your energy, your smile, and I can see you, and hopefully either those that are listening or those that are viewing this can just see the energy that you bring to every situation you're in. So I know you're busy. I won't belabor the hour. Of course, we got to get you back. We may get you back to talk to some kids about, kind of that track of the professional athlete. But, anything that you want to leave the people with before we close out, but anything you want to leave the people with?
Before I leave a nugget, thank you, Dr. Batts, in this formal space that we're talking, but for you, you're Travis to me. So thank you once again for this opportunity, but one thing that I want to leave with everyone is continue chasing your dreams, no matter how big or small. Like, you have to have something that's going to wake you up every day, that's going to allow you to move and pivot to the next step. And I hope that my story has been an inspiration to all. I'm an open book. So I've seen rainy days and I've seen plenty of sunshine. I've come from humble beginnings and I've dined with kings and presidents. So if I can do it out of little old Spring Lake, so can you.
Hey, you have done it and you are continuing to do it. And as we close, I like to let everybody know, when we say life, you all know what we mean. It's living intentionally forever. One thing that I can say about Crystal, or Miss Walker, is that she lives fearlessly. Decisions to continue to shoot for the Olympics after having a child. Decisions to push to have an international career despite balancing work, school, mom, all these things. And then a decision to go to a place where she didn't know where she was going to go, be there for 40 days, deny the normal pleasantries of life, and succeed in that space really speaks to her ability to have intention to everything she does. Now, whether your intention is to create a new version of yourself, to help others, or to find that new pivot point, it starts by telling yourself, no for now, but not forever. Again, this is Dr. Batts, the host of the About That Life podcast, telling you to live intentionally forever. Thank you. Hey, this is Dr. Batts. If you enjoyed anything about what you heard, give us a 5-star review. If you want to hear different content or have other questions, let us know on all platforms so we can help you live intentionally forever.